Marjorie Taylor Greene wants a divorce in the United States. Here we go. We need a national divorce, she says. We need to separate red states and blue states and shrink the federal government. Everyone I talk to says this, from the sick and disgusting woke culture issues shoved down our throats to the Democrats' traitorous America Last policies. We are done. All right, so that's a desire for civil war.
Everyone says this.
Can you imagine the United States Civil War being fought over slavery and ending the horrific exploitation and just murderous economic system that we had in this country? That was the cause of our first Civil War. But this Civil War is going to be wokeness, aka blackness. Oh, there is some consistency there, right?
Where were you when the Great War of Wokeness started?
I was just
WW3, Woke War 3.
I was, waking up in the morning, taking my puberty blockers as I do, just for fun, right? Dressing in different clothes and being critical of white people, looking at myself in the mirror, saying, "You are evil," as I do.
In a massive, like spaceship-sized Ibram X. Kendi book just started coming towards my apartment.
I put on my kente cloth and I leave my apartment.
The wokeness!
And then I found out, oh wow, the Civil War is happening. But I guess that's the side that I'm on. I'm on the woke side. This tweet got some traction. Then she went on Fox News to talk about it.
What do you say to your critics that say that our country's governed by our Constitution? You swore an oath to defend it. Is there any way that America, in spite of our differences, are we at a point where, okay, you either win an election and your side is up to bat, or you lose an election and their agenda gets pushed forward? Or do you actually think there will be a growing movement towards this because the divide is so deep?
I actually think this is a much bigger movement than most people in Washington even realize. And you can take a look at the tweets that I made just yesterday. The amount of likes and retweets that those tweets got should tell people a lot. And they're just not aware of it yet because they don't talk to regular people. You see, this isn't ending our union. This is shrinking the federal government, which we need to stop our spending. Our spending is out of control. We can abolish departments and different parts of our federal government and give states more power and control to conduct their affairs and their laws that fit the people that live in those states. This is more respectful towards all Americans, and it could end the fighting, and hopefully we can respect each other once again.
And do you expect it'll happen? Last question.
Well, I think it's something that we should work towards because, it's kind of the vision that our founding fathers had for America, and I think it's a great one. It worked in the beginning. We just got it completely out of control, so I hope we can get there.
They anticipated civil war?
All right, Marjorie Taylor Greene, thanks for explaining it all to us. We appreciate it.
The founding fathers were kind of, yes, they advocated for some states to have autonomy. There were states' rights guys, there were federalists, but there ended up being an agreement that federal authority needs to be
it worked in the beginning
to be preserved over the states.
Define beginning.
Yeah. Maybe she's talking about the beginning of the Confederacy.
It worked great in the beginning, and then we just couldn't land the plane.
Well, the left is advocating for Medicare for all. I'm advocating for divorce for all, because if I gotta get divorced, then the rest of you guys have to get divorced too. Donate to me.
If my marriage needs to end because of my CrossFit dalliances, then so does everyone's marriages.
Yeah. Why? Where is your CrossFit mistress, America? Is it wokeness?
Lower taxes and a CrossFit affair in every home.
That's the Republican agenda.
The MTG way.
Oh, baby. I would love, I do appreciate the creativity and branding of the next Civil War as the national divorce. But, guess we got to see if this pans out. I'm glad Hannity had her on to talk about potential secession.
She also had some more ideas about some new and inventive ways
to
suppress voting.
Her brains is still in recovery mode. Here she is on the Charlie Kirk show. More ideas.
I don't think the left would ever stop. I don't think they'll ever stop trying to invade our states or our counties. So how do we stop them?
Well, I think that, red states could choose and how they allow people to vote in their states. For example, over the past couple of years, we've seen a mass exodus from California and New York, where we've seen people fleeing those leftist policies and moving to states like Florida, Georgia, Texas, states where they like the tax policies, they like the schools, they like the consequences of Republican and red policies. What I think would be something that some red states could propose is, well, okay, if Democrat voters choose to flee these blue states where they cannot tolerate the living conditions, they don't want their children taught these horrible things, and they really change their mind on the types of policies that they support, well, once they move to a red state, guess what? Maybe you don't get to vote for 5 years. You can live there, you can work there, but you don't get to bring your values that you basically created in the blue states you came from by voting for Democrat leaders and Democrat policies. But this would be up to red states to be able to choose to do something like that so that their red states don't get changed, which is what's happening, unfortunately, when Democrat voters leave their Democrat states and they take their Democrat votes with them. That would be something that these red states would have to really consider and choose to do. But I'm a big believer in freedom, Charlie.
Oh,
but I'm also a big believer in defending our ability to pursue life and liberty and happiness. And the left is completely destroying that for those of us on the right.
Who are the two senators that represent Georgia? Just curious.
I have to imagine this is where that's coming from.
Yeah, I mean,
those pesky Democratic voters in the state that I represent. We need to get a 5-year ban on those guys.
But she believes in freedom, right? And that is fascinating to me. Because Eric Adams is very concerned about New Yorkers leaving for Florida, right? And that was part of his push to talk about how it was hateful down there, and that's why he spoke out about it.
He's like, I'm coordinating with Greg Abbott to make sure that New Yorkers cannot vote if they move to Texas. I will suppress their votes.
It's just, whoa. Look, it's funny to laugh at because she's an idiot, but at the same time, they are very, very authoritarian fascists. They don't believe in freedom, as they say. They want to suppress your vote by moratoriums on being a blue state voter that moves to a red state. They already are. This should shine a light on what the real impetus is behind voter suppression. The efforts to curb mail-in voting, the closing down of polling stations, making it as difficult for people, specifically in black communities, to come vote. If she's saying this out loud about blue voters in red states, what are they trying to do to the blue voters that are already living in their state?
Yeah, this is similar in the vein of what we were talking about with Walsh and Candace Owens about the anti-trans bigotry, but in the sense that I do feel like there's been a slight shift in the overt fascism. Not for necessarily Marjorie Taylor Greene, but in the sense that, I think now because she's slightly further back into the fold in the Republican caucus and, has committee assignments, is sort of not in leadership, but obviously very close with Kevin McCarthy, sort of like a lieutenant for him. I think she feels a little bit more comfortable coming out with more of, the real, unencumbered, just straight line fascism. That's not even that nutty. It's more just actually we need to disenfranchise and disempower our perceived
Democratic
enemies.
voters.
Yeah, so that they cannot obtain any sort of political power.
I mean, they're always obsessed with democracy, or they'll talk about in socialist Venezuela, right? And what makes it authoritarian in their estimation is that the elections are rigged, votes are stacked against them, they're disenfranchising their political opponents. No, that's you, dude. Marjorie Taylor Greene's They stole my whole goddamn flow, right?
It's like I'm the divorced one.
Yeah, and so must you all be.
I'm gonna divorce the country.
God, I'm so used to the divorced energy of right-wing, like men's rights activists, kind of permeating their politics. We have yet to see. She's really a trailblazer in this way. A divorced energy female representative bringing that energy to her political opinions.
This is why representation matters.
It really is.
This is why barriers break. This is how barriers break.
Yep. She's breaking the glass ceiling on behalf of adulterous conspiracy theorist female types.
She's breaking the glass ceiling on absolutely furious divorcees in the political space. Just maniacally pissed off divorcees.
Evan from Portland, what about all the Republicans moving to cities? Does MTG think we should not let them vote for mayor? Well, probably not. Because they're not woke. Murray the Orc, Bradley's hitting the nail on the head with regards to overt fascism. I agree. Murray the Orc also says it's so frustrating hearing conservatives complain about black and white politicians of the left when in reality it's the most red-pilled Republicans who talk about national politics like it's a death match against an alien species. Yeah. When they talk about being so divided, and she's literally saying blue state voters should be disenfranchised. Chicago leather character